I welcome all the students of Standard 9 for the chapter The Flower. I know you all are at home enjoying your holidays. A little strain to listen to this chapter. I think this period of time will help you to prepare for your forthcoming exams. As we all know, the flower is the most attractive and beautiful part of the plant. It is present in all angiosperms, which we call as flowering plants. Flower is a symbol of love and affection, isn't it? They bring joy and color to one's life. They also increase the beauty of nature. Mostly during the spring season, we see that most of the flowers they bloom and they beautify your garden. So this chapter is a very interesting topic for you all. You can sit quietly, pay attention to the chapter and prepare yourselves. Now let's start with the topic, the flower. Flower is the reproductive part of the plant. It performs very important function, that is sexual reproduction. Let's see. It is the most attractive and beautiful part of the plant. It is present in angiosperms, as I told you, because we call them as flowering plants. They develop fruits and seeds and they help in the formation of new offsprings by plants. Now let's see the structure of this typical flower, which is a condensed and modified shoot. A whole flower is divided into three parts. The flower stalk or the pedicel. The enlarged part of the stalk is called as the receptacle or the thalamus, and on which there are four floral rolls which are arranged one after the other. The outermost roll, the sepal, the second roll, the petals, the third roll are of the stamens, and the innermost roll is of the carpet. So let's study each and every part in detail now. Flower stalk supports the flower, that is the pedicel supports the flower. Some flowers, they don't have a stalk. We call them as sessile flowers. Flowers grow in the axil of the leaves. They are axillary flowers, and which are borne on the apex of the branches are terminal flowers. Some flowers that occur singly are called solitary flowers. Next, I told you the base, or that is the expanded portion of the pedicel or the stalk, is the thalamus or the receptacle on which is cup shaped, on which all the floral rolls are arranged. The first roll is called as the calyx. The constituent units of the calyx is called as the sepal. This green outermost roll is a sepal. Individual is a sepal, but collection of sepals is calyx. Now, these sepals are green in color, but sometimes, as in gulmohar and nasturtium, they become colored. So they are called as petaloid sepals. When the sepals are free from each other, as in mustard or radish, they are called polysepalous. And when they are united, as in China rose, we call it as gamosepalous. So collection of sepals, when the sepals are united, gamosepalous. When the sepals are free, polysepalous. The function of the sepal is to protect the flower in the bud stage, and as they're green in color, they also help in manufacturing food for the plants. Petals and sepals together, they attract insects for pollination. Corolla. The collection of petals is called as corolla. Next to the sepals, this roll of petals, we call it as corolla. Now here, if the petals are free from each other, it is polypetalous as in mustard, and if it is united, it is gamopetalous as in petunia. Some petals may also be green. Petals are colored, but some petals are green. Such are called as sepaloid petals. The function of petals is to attract insects for pollination as they are brightly colored. The third role of the flower is androecium. Androecium is a collection of stamens. That means the units of androecium are stamens. It is the male reproductive role of the flower. Now, each stamen consists of a stalk called as the filament and a lobe called as the anther. The anther and the filament are connected by a connective. Each anther has 4 lobes, and each lobe of the anther contains 2 chambers, and within which small granules called pollen grains are present. They are called as the male gametes. Now you can see the examples given there. The different types of flowers given here, shown here. These are called as the stamens. Anther, filament, collection of stamens is the androecium. Types of stamens. Some stamens are free and they arise from the thalamus as in mustard. It's called as polyandrous. Some filaments are fused to form a tube. This filament, it forms a tube. All the filaments, they form a tube where you can find that the filaments form the tube, but the anthers, they remain free from each other. This type of arrangement is called monadelphous arrangement. China rose is an example. Diadelphous, you can find that all the filaments are arranged in 2 bundles, and the anthers, they remain free, as in case of pea, gram, etc. Diadelphous arrangement. Syngenesious arrangement, here the filaments are free but the anthers are united. All the anthers are united, filaments are free, as in sunflower. You can see in petunia, filaments are fused with the petals, called as epipetalous. If the filaments are attached to the petals, we call it as epipetalous. The next innermost role, the fourth role, innermost role of the flower is called as gynoecium, which is called as the female part of the flower. It is called as a carpel or a pistil. It is composed of units called carpels. Each carpel has, the unit of a carpel is ovary, the style and the stigma. And the ovary is the swollen base. The swollen base of the carpel is called as the ovary, which contains ovules within which female gametes develop. Then the stalk of the ovule that connects the stigma is the style, and the knob-like structure or the terminal end of the carpel is called as the stigma. This terminal end is called as the stigma. Stigma is mostly sticky or feathery to receive the pollen grains during fertilization, during pollination. Next, carpels are of various types. When a flower contains one carpel, it is called monocarpellary, as in pea, bean. If there are 2 carpels in a flower, it is bicarpellary, as in a mustard flower. And if there are more than 2 carpels, as in ladyfinger, we call it as polycarpellary. Next, let us concentrate on placentation. That is where ovules are arranged. Within the ovary, ovules remain arranged on this placenta. And the arrangement of placenta within the ovary is called placentation. You can see there are different types of placentations. Now the ovules are attached to the ovary on this placenta. The arrangement is of various types. There is a different type in A, B and C. Next, inflorescence. Arrangement of flowers on the twig or arrangement of flowers on a single axis is called inflorescence. Again I repeat, flowers are arranged in groups or clusters. So groups of flowers arranged on a single axis is called inflorescence. A common axis that bears the inflorescence is called peduncle, but the stalk of the individual flower is called as the pedicel. Next, let's see the inflorescence, types of inflorescence. These are of two types. One is racemose, other one is cymose inflorescence. In racemose inflorescence, here the main axis of a flower, this is the main axis of the flower. It grows indefinitely bearing flowers in equipetal order, that is younger flowers are at the tip and older flowers at the base. This is the main stalk, we call it as peduncle, and individual stalk of individual flower is the pedicel. Next we will go for cymose inflorescence. We see that the main axis is main axis of the flower. This is the main axis. The younger flowers are towards the base and older flowers are at the tip. So such an arrangement is called cymose inflorescence. You can see such an arrangement in cymose inflorescence. Example, jasmine and cotton. Next, let's see what is the floral symmetry, how the flowers are arranged. These are three types: actinomorphic, zygomorphic and asymmetrical. What is actinomorphic symmetry? When the flower can be divided into two equal halves by any vertical section, may be straight, maybe this way or this way, crossways. Anyway, if it is divided into two equal halves, we call it as regular or actinomorphic symmetry. Next, in case of mustard and brinjal, you find this sort of actinomorphic symmetry. Second type of symmetry, as in pea and bean, you can see that this is zygomorphic. Flower can be divided into two equal halves only by one plane, no more planes, only by one plane you can divide into two equal halves. Third is asymmetrical. We can divide a flower into two equal halves at any plane is called, which cannot be divided, asymmetrical flower which cannot be divided into two equal halves by any plane is asymmetrical, as in case of canna flower, C-A-N-N-A, canna. Now, position of floral rolls on the thalamus. There is hypogyny, perigamy and epigamy. Let's see what is this arrangement. Now hypogyny, here you can see the ovary occupies the top position on the thalamus and the sepals, petals and stamens are present below. And in case of China rose, perigamy, there the thalamus in this case goes from the cup-shaped structure which encloses the ovary. Cup-shaped structure is enclosing the ovary half the way. And as in pea flower, you can see in sunflower the thalamus grows around the ovary. Around the ovary the thalamus is growing and completely covers up to the top, and that is the floral rolls are born above the ovary, as in case of sunflower. Okay, we conclude this part of the chapter and we'll continue in the next chapter, next part of the chapter, that is pollination and fertilization.